What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the latest edition of the Burgundy Brigade podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Goff, at BRG Brigade Kevin on Twitter, joined as usual by my good friend and co-host, Aaron Music. He is at Avalangelist on Twitter. Aaron, man, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing really well. Just had a date night with the wife. It's a great day.
Excellent. Excellent. Date nights with the wife are always good.
Mm-hmm.
Always good when you can get them. It's harder when you have kids.
Well, we don't exactly have that yet, so...
Lucky you. I love my children. I promise I do. Anyways, it's an August edition of the Burgundy Brigade podcast coming to you. So, as it often is in the month of August, it's a little bit slow. But, you know, we're slowly but surely creeping our way back to September, October, which brings with it, of course, training camp, preseason, and then, of course, the regular season, which all of us are waiting for and cannot wait to get involved in. So, since we're getting, we're a couple weeks now, just a couple weeks away from rookie camps, we're going to start talking about what we maybe see the lineup looking like coming into this year. Talk about some guys we are hoping will either take a step or make a big splash, and guys maybe we think might take a bit of a step back or maybe do for a little bit of a regression. Hopefully we won't have too many of those come along, but you never know. So let's just...
As long as one of those isn't Nathan McKinnon, I feel kind of fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on the type of step back that it would be, because, I mean, have that type of a breakout season.
McKinnon taking a step back, because I don't know that there's anyone ready to take that gigantic step forward to cover him.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. But, you know, if he got 86 points instead of the 90 plus he had, then that's still pretty good. Still pretty darn good. So, you know, let's take a look at the lineup here and see where we find the Avalanche. Now, the Avalanche, as far as the offseason was concerned, wasn't very busy. Of course, we covered their free agency and the trades they made. Their big splash, of course, was acquiring Philip Grubauer and then re-signing him to a 3-year deal. They made a couple other littler signings that were to kind of augment the bottom six and stabilize a little bit more of the defensive core. And it's so by and large, the lineup is going to look very similar to last season, which can be both good or bad depending on the way some of the players progress here. So I don't know. Let's see here. I mean, obviously, we're not looking to change that top line. That top line should stay together. And if you're changing that, then well, there's just something plain wrong with you. So that's
either that or someone like Tyson Jost has stepped up into a left wing role we didn't expect him to.
Yeah, or you know, I'm barely not even gonna, or something really bad has happened that you are now being forced to change it. So
right. Let's
of course hope that nothing horridly bad goes up there. So, I mean, that's the biggest layup there is. You keep that top line, the Landy Mac Rants line, the 2092-96 route, you get, or 92-29-96. Yeah, that's how that one's set right there. And you run with it, and you let them be your best line, and you let them carry your team.
Yep. You probably don't do too much with whatever third, fourth, second, whatever line you want to call it, with the Soderberg, Nieto, and probably it's either going to be Calvert or Comfer.
Yeah,
that's up there. I kind of like it to be Comfer and turn that into something with a little more scoring punch.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, and you want you want that line to end up being your third line.
Yeah, that's the ideal. My guess is the second line, you have Kerfoot, Jost, and Andrighetto.
Look at you and me right in lockstep here, yeah. Jost in between Kerfoot and Andrighetto, which we saw a decent amount of last season. And
and I would not be shocked if Martin Kaut ends up there a time or two.
I agree. He's got
the season. He's got the NHL frame and everything. He needs to fill out, obviously. And coming over to North America, it'll be interesting to see how he transitions.
Yeah, and he will be able to get that kind of 9-game tryout and still be able to play in the AHL, similar to the way Mikko Rantanen did in his entry-level contract. Because he is a European player.
Might not be until mid-season.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm with you. I don't necessarily think it'll happen opening night the way it did for Rantanen. But Kaut being a European player does not have to be sent back down to a CHL team, a major junior team, in order to have that entry-level contract slide. He can just play not in the NHL, and that's all that matters for him.
Third line, we've already gone through that. Fourth line is a little tough for me. You paid him a lot of money, so Matt Calvert's probably going to be there.
Yep.
The question is, who's going to center that line? My gut tells me that Dominic Toninato nails that down.
Mm-hmm.
He showed some interesting pep in his step and did pretty well. Just in regards to his improvement along the face-offs and in the defensive zone, Bednar seemed to trust him quite a bit, which was unusual for a player who was a rookie.
Yep.
So then I kind of think this is where we see a young kid. You might see Colin Wilson, but I don't know how impressive he will be. You could also see Colin Wilson be on that Soderberg line. I would not be shocked.
Yeah, that bottom six is definitely interesting.
But here's where I think AJ Greer becomes a player. I think he really works himself into that middle third, fourth line role as a gritty player who spends time around the net. And that's where you really see him. Yeah.
I would love for AJ Greer to win out that spot on opening night and be the guy that takes that away from Colin Wilson. Nothing against Mr. Wilson. But Wilson. Yeah, nothing. I mean, but again, he did not really seem to fit with the Avalanche team. He could have a
Soderberg kind of renaissance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could, for sure. You're right. I mean, he did deal with a lot of injuries last year, and it took him a while once he got back from the early season injuries to really find a step. He was okay in the playoffs. He wasn't much of a factor, but you know, I think he did provide a little something for the team in there, a little bit of steadiness. In the playoffs, but again, he's a guy that honestly you want AJ Greer to be taking his job, because that means your young player is taking the step forward, and you're not having to rely on an older player to fill out a role that really someone else should be able to do just as well, if not better. And really, I mean, ideally you want Greer to get in there and get on that third line.
Vladislav Kamenev, who should be a player. You also have Gabriel Bork. Who's vying for playing time. The competition for what I think is about 4 spots is going to get real heated.
Yeah, I agree. I would not be terribly surprised if Bork finds his way back to the AHL this year.
I wouldn't be surprised if he starts there and then gets a call-up and doesn't go back down.
Yeah, I can see that too. I could definitely see that too.
What he did this year.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's making what? Less than $1 million, so you can bury that contract in the minors, no problem.
Yeah, or he's like right at $1 million or something. So, yeah. So those are looks at your forwards right there. Pretty well. I mean, I'm pretty lockstep in all of them. I feel like that's pretty much what it's going to look like opening night, with maybe some potential. I mean, you never know. Training camp can change a lot for sure, depending on who comes in there and wows.
Or if you have an unforeseen injury.
Or an unforeseen injury, which, again, let's just hope that doesn't happen to any of them. Then back on the blue line, there's probably a few combinations you can play with, but I think it's largely going to be around the same 6 guys, which,
7, 8 guys I have.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay, fair. At the tops are obviously your top 2 guys are EJ and Zad. Those are your best 2 defensemen.
Yeah, though I'm also kind of intrigued to go with Zadorov with Barry.
Yeah.
So Zadorov with Barry, then put EJ with Gerard. I feel like that could be pretty dynamic.
I feel like that's the type of thing you switch to when you're down a goal with about 8 minutes left in a game, where you still have a little bit of defensive responsibility, but you also spread out your dynamic playmakers.
My idea here is to keep some of the minutes off Eric Johnson.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
I mean, and EJ has shown he can handle the workload.
Yes, but he also has shown that he gets injured. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, and I hear that, but at the same time, the injuries he's gotten are like, I mean, he blocked a shot and it broke his leg. Is less ice time going to help that?
Right,
and he had a freak weird one last year where he went to put his arm into someone, and then I still don't even really know what happened with that.
The thing that has me thinking this is that you shift so that in the second half of the season you have you start throwing him more minutes and you start escalating that up.
Uh-huh.
And so you even out the pairings until, except for defensive zone draws, Johnson and Zadorov get out there.
Yep.
And like for critical moments, you put Zadorov and Johnson together, and that way you always have a monster blue liner out on the ice, at least for most of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the whole idea.
Yeah. There were lots of stretches of time last year where I felt like there weren't really in the top 4. It was never really set top 2, set middle 2. They always kind of it felt like there was a lot more rotating between guys, and it felt like they were all just able to play with one another, which is a really good thing. That way, depending on you can have a lot more flexibility depending on your situational hockey, and the coach can say, well, we really need to shut them down. We'll get EJ and Zad. Or, maybe we need to play it a little bit differently. I can get Zad and Gerard, and there was a lot of different ways that there were a lot of different guys out on the ice at the same time together last year.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting. The second pairing, I feel like they really solidified that Ian Cole's going to play there.
Yes.
And my guess, I think. The more I think about this, you're right. Zadorov, Johnson, Barry, Ian Cole, and then Sam Girard is the final lock-in on the spot that I have there currently.
Yep.
You finish that up with either Patrick Nemeth or Mark Barberio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would not be shocked if the 8th defenseman who gets a regular rotation is Connor Timmins.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of would be a little bit if what the plan was to rotate who was sitting, because in a guy's first pro year, even if he does have the chops to play in the NHL, if you're not going to give him regular time, I feel like it's better for him to just put him in the AHL and let him play, let him get 23 minutes a night in the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and of course we're still waiting to see what's going to go on with Anton Lindholm. It seems likely that if he's not set with the team, that he'll head back to Sweden. But if you want to run some kind of a rotation, he might fall into that too.
Yeah, I just think he's heading back to Sweden.
I mean, otherwise you got to start looking at Warsofsky again.
Mark Alt.
Yeah, that's true. Mark Alt.
Your first call up's going to be Mark Alt.
I
Maybe
hope not.
Depends on the role.
True. It depends on the role. I agree.
If one of Barry or Gerard goes down, you're calling up Timmins.
Yeah.
Assuming Timmins or Meloche.
Yep. That is gonna be and we'll get to those guys. But that is definitely going to be an interesting pair to watch down in Loveland this year. Yeah, no, you and I are kind of lockstep there in pretty much the entire lineup. The top forwards are all pretty well. That is pretty well exactly how we had it. I feel
like it's with the roster. There's not we're pretty set. We know where the depth is. They actually have verified depth, so we know basically who's going to be playing where. We have a bona fide first line, a bona fide third line. We're waiting for a second line to really cement itself and emerge.
Yep.
And then from that, you're looking for some of your younger guys to push out the older guys for the fourth line duties. That's really what you're looking for.
Yep.
Biggest question for you: who starts opening night, and who starts the most games? In goal?
I mean, again, depending on health and if anything weird is happening in that particular thing, I still think it's Varley's net.
I'm inclined to as well, but how Bednar manages this is going to be intriguing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
you got to play both of them. You got to keep them happy. You got to keep them engaged, and you also got to win games as a team.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a balancing act between all that.
I think all in all, it's probably going to be a bit more even as far as games played is concerned between the two guys, unless one guy catches total lightning in a bottle and dominates everything and is just leaps and bounds better than the other. Then it's probably going to be if Varley is healthy the whole year, I could see him probably getting high 40s, low 50s in the starts, and then for Grubauer, high 30s, maybe low 40s.
I can also see Varlamov being shipped at the deadline.
I don't know if I can see that quite yet, simply because then we're sitting there going, well, God, who's the backup?
Well, this is where the second part comes. It depends on what Francouz does.
Oh yes, that's right. Gotta remember about good old Francouz.
If he starts taking the AHL by storm, Varlamov is doing pretty well, and so is Grubauer, but you need to get a piece like a solid scoring help.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of teams that would look at a Varlamov and say, well, do we take the shot?
Yeah, I'd have to say if the Avalanche are going to be moving Varlamov at the deadline, they're probably not in a very good position.
Yeah, I would say they're either not in a great position or they're fighting. They're in a pack and they're trying to break out of it.
Man, that would be a ballsy move at that point.
It would be. I mean, the Stones and Sakic would have to do it.
Yeah, seriously, that would take a lot.
But at the same point, it's the last year of Varlamov's deal.
Yeah, that is very true, and I mean he's got to be playing for his Avalanche life, really, so to speak here, because after that, unless he, kindly and gently, seeds the net and is like, I'll be your backup now, which, how often does that happen for professional sports? Then you gotta imagine the Avs got to try to get something for him.
So that's gonna be the storyline I'll be watching. I'll be watching that storyline, and the second line. / young player development. We've talked about a couple of players. If you were to guess a player who isn't already established on the roster that breaks into the roster, who do you think that would be?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Player is that breaks into the Avalanche roster. That the guy that I want it to be is AJ Greer. That's the guy I want it to be. I want him to come in and be like this, and become a great third line two-way guy who goes and just makes life miserable for everybody, but still also has the offensive prowess to provide some regular secondary scoring for the Avalanche, to just really just go out there and piss people off, make people ridiculously upset about him, and then make them hate him even more because he goes and puts the puck in their net.
Almost like a Tom Wilson light.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm inclined to go AJ Greer myself. Behind him, I also have Martin Kaut. I feel like there's something about him that feels like he's going to overachieve. And just by the end of the year, you're going to make a space for him on your roster.
Yeah.
I also think Connor Timmins ends the year on the Avalanche roster. To the point that I think your third pairing next year is Timmins and Makar.
That'd be a pretty okay pairing for me.
Uh-huh. Then
anybody who's going to make a splash, like a system splash for you, not necessarily a guy who's going to be into the Avalanche, but within the system, the pro system.
I think Ty Lewis is going to be really good in the AHL.
He's one to watch for sure.
I think Shane Bowers, you're going to hear a lot about him.
Yeah, he won't be a pro till March though.
I also kind of think you're going to hear a lot about Sempo Ranta. I feel like he was going to Wisconsin. Sounds like he's going to Minnesota. So
yeah, there was I know BSN's podcast said there were rumblings about him also potentially ending up at Boston with Shane Bowers. But yeah, I agree. The last thing we were talking about this yesterday. The latest headline was that he was going to end up in Minnesota, which is okay because then he's not playing for Tony Granato.
He's got the kind of engine and work ethic and ability that you kind of dream of in a middle six guy. And then, I don't know, the main storyline that everyone's going to be looking for is going to be that first round pick. First round pick.
That we really, really would love it to be the first overall, but there's just no guarantee there. Within the pro system for the Avs, one of the guys to make a splash, the guy that's got my eye is Igor Shvirev.
Ooh, that's a good under the radar pick.
Yeah, because he's
playing in the AHL, right?
He will be in the AHL. He's probably going to be top 6 forward wise in the AHL. The guy, again, to kind of steal a little bit of analysis out of what I heard when they were talking prospects on the BSN podcast. They were kind of making little comparisons between Nikolai Kovalenko and Shvirev, saying you look at Kovalenko's numbers, pretty decent, had something like 30 some odd points in 30 some odd games out there, not bad in the MHL, that lower league in Russia. Well, Shvirev had like 70 points in 40 games in that same league and just was never given a shot in the KHL. And he's got all kinds of skill and talent and was just never allowed to show it in the KHL. Like he actually got on the ice in the KHL in his first game and scored a goal on like his second shift. Early in the game, and then was glued to the bench for whatever reason. And he could make a real depending on all the stuff that's going on, the adjustment to the North American game, the smaller ice, the older players, how he adjusts to that will show a lot. But that's a guy that he could come out and he could own the AHL this year.
It's entirely possible. I didn't even think about that, and that would be a true dark horse.
Yeah.
There's a lot to the Avalanche prospect list that I really like what their direction they're heading.
It's moving in a really positive direction.
They went from California drought to Seattle wet in about 2 years.
Yeah. I tell you what, you make trades that send you all kinds of higher draft picks, and you make smarter selections with those draft picks, and suddenly you got a plentiful cupboard.
And you also expand your scouting base. We've already talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, we've still got a couple years of what some of the draft picks that came back in the Duchesne deal. There's going to be more of this for the next. We saw we had Nashville's pick this year. Yes, the Avalanche did. They had a Nashville pick this year.
Yep, which I
think they traded off. Then they're going to end up with 2 Ottawa picks, barring any weird trades. I don't think Erik Karlsson's coming to the Avalanche. As cool as that would be, I don't see it happening.
Unless he comes as a free agent.
Well, there you go. Then the Avalanche are going to end up with Ottawa's first this year and one of their and the third round pick of theirs this year, plus their own picks in those rounds. I mean, the Avalanche have a lot of draft picks to play with.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
It's a good thing to have.
It's a good. Now, before we get too into the prospect discussion here, let's kind of come back to the pro team. Is there anybody on this team that you look at and think, look at what the year they had last year, and think they're probably due for a step back?
Alexander Kerfoot.
A step back. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm not even hesitating. I feel like a lot of people are overlooking Jost because Kerfoot had such a good year, and Kerfoot got a lot of lucky last year. So
I didn't realize he had 19 goals.
Yeah, he had 19 goals. Look at his shooting percentage. 23.5.
That's pretty high. Yeah.
19 goals on 81 shots.
Although when you pass 10 times and shoot once.
Well, Nathan MacKinnon had 39 goals on 284 shots.
Yeah, for sure.
13.7%. 13% is about league average for those.
Yeah.
So you're either asking for Kerfoot to make a whole lot more assists, or you're looking at his goal total just going down into. Maybe his shots go up and he gets closer to 150. Maybe. I just don't see what he did was sustainable.
I didn't realize his shooting percentage was that high. That is kind of ridiculously high.
It isn't. 13. Figure about 13% is league average.
Yeah.
So say you get 150 shots, 13%.
There's 15
that
goals.
Would be 19 goals.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure he gets 150 shots. He just doesn't shoot enough.
Yeah.
And he got insanely lucky on a bunch of weird deflection goals. He had that goal in Montreal we've talked about where he had the entire wide open net. He decides, I'm going to shoot at the goaltender, and it goes off the goaltender's elbow and into the net.
Yeah. But again, in his, what I will say in his defense, he got a lot of those things because he did the right things. He was doing the right things. He was going to the net.
He's a smart player. He's due for a pretty solid regression.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure his shots will come up to meet that regression, which makes me think he could be in for a rough year.
Yeah, that's possible. And again, some will depend on who he plays with, how people around him step up as well. Because again, if he's going to be playing with Jost and Comfer, two of the guys he spent a lot of time with last year, you got to expect those guys to try to make some kind of forward movement as well, for sure.
Yeah, I just don't see 19. Don't see 19 goals.
Yeah, I thought it was more around 13 goals, but ended up, wow, I can't. Man,
that's kind of how I feel. I'm also kind of questioning Matt Nieto scoring 15 goals.
Yeah,
Can he get there again? I'm not sure.
Probably not. But again, he did a lot of the things the right way, and where it was kind of the pendulum swing the other way for a lot of people from the year before, right? Where everything they did, it's that little weird quarter of an inch, right? Where you go slightly one direction, and for a whole year it hits the post and goes off and misses, or you miss completely and it just goes nowhere, and then it swings back the other way, and suddenly it hits the post and it pings and knocks the water bottle off, and you're sitting there looking like a scorer all over the place. So, I think both those guys are great choices there. Another guy I'm kind of would expect to step back a bit, and I don't say this as a means of him having a crazy regression, just that when you see a guy have a career year exploding out the way that McKinnon did, you kind of have to wonder, is that what's going to be regular from now on? Is it going to be close to that? Can they do it again? And it almost seems like it's going to be more likely that they come back to earth a little bit. So I
will put a bet on this that he reaches 100 points this year.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Throwing down. All right.
I think he hits 40-60. He's got, assuming he has Rantanen on his wing,
which he always should.
That combination, the minutes he plays, the way that he's learned how to do his start and stop, the way he learned so much more about slowing the game down, and that allowed him to have a career year. But I don't think it's the kind of career year where you fall off. I think it's the kind of career year where you realize, this is what I am. And 40-60.
Yeah.
I would put, I wouldn't say money, but if you want to do like a profile bet.
A profile bet. All right. Well, maybe we should put it out to everybody and figure out what we should bet here.
If it doesn't happen, you get to pick my profile picture for however long.
All right. Well, yeah. We'll discuss this. I have no problem with making it interesting.
I just feel like Nathan McKinnon has arrived.
Yeah.
Now, the guy you could put, and I think you'd be wise to saying this, just because he was a little foxy by proxy, was Landeskog.
Yeah. Although, I mean, he had a really strong year, but as I recall, his points weren't wildly anymore.
63 points is pretty.
It's not. That's not even his career high. His career high is still 65 from 2013-14.
Yeah, of anyone on that line, he's the one most likely to regress.
Yeah,
and that's not a knock on him. He's going to do a lot of really good things. He's going to do a lot of really good things on that line that you won't notice.
Yeah.
He just might not get as many points.
I don't know. I mean, 62. That's kind of in his range.
Yeah, I just think he could be more in the realm of 50 to 55.
Yeah, I mean that's like 55 to 60, 55 to 65 is Gabe Landeskog.
And we just don't have lofty expectations. It's not a huge regression.
Yeah. Again, like I don't even necessarily call that a regression on him. I just say that's kind of a Gabe year.
Yeah, it's within his standard delineation.
20 to 25 goals and 55 to 60 points. That's pretty much what you expect.
Do you think Barry regresses at all?
Yeah, I think Barry's pretty much in the realm of this is who he is. That's, he's there in the 50 high 50s point range. Yeah, this was a career high year for him, but even that you're still kind of expecting him to be in that range. You also expect him to miss 12 to 15 games.
Yeah, and the trying to think this whole through. Is there a player on the roster that you think is established that you think breaks out?
That's established? Define established.
Like they were on the roster last year.
Okay.
You expect them to be on.
That I think breaks out from last year? No. Sam Girard, maybe. Otherwise, though, aside from that, I don't expect Tyson Jost to break out. Really. I would love to see him. I would expect. So I would define a breakout season from Tyson Jost to be a 50-point season.
See, that's where I think he lands.
Not a like 30 to 40 type of point season. I think 30 to 40 points that's lower than what you want for him. But anything 50 plus, I would call a breakout season from him.
Yeah, I think you're. But I think as far as a goal scorer, that we're kind of overlooking, just because he had a little bit of bad luck. I think JT Compher hits 20 goals this year.
So that's another one that's kind of pretty lofty.
Well,
he did hit a lot of posts, but yeah, I mean,
put 131 shots on the net and only shot like 10%. So I mean, if he just has a couple more of those posts that he hits, just goes the other way, I can see him getting 20 goals. He has a really good shot. The fact that he's a right-handed shot means he's going to get fed the puck a lot in a shooting way.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of lefties.
Very true. I mean, a lot of that's also going to come with opportunity, and he doesn't really see a lot of ice in high prime scoring situations.
I don't know. If he's on that Soderberg line, I feel like Blake Como, he has way more of a chance to finish like Blake Como did.
When's the last time Como hit 20 goals? Yeah, and so I mean, yeah, Como had 14 goals. Compher had 13. I don't know. Compher. I mean, if we're certainly in a place with Compher where we don't really know who he is. I think we want him to be that type of guy who can go get 20 goals for you, maybe 40 to 50 points, but we just don't know if that's who he is. He certainly has some capabilities. I think he kind of hamstrings himself a little bit because every single time he gets a breakaway of any kind or like a break where it's him and a guy, he shoots way too soon.
That's some of youth.
It's just, I mean, he is, but again, that's really ingrained in him. He doesn't make the move. He doesn't try to better his angle. He doesn't try to place the defender in a spot where he can use him as a screen. He just puts it on. And, sometimes that'll work, but at the NHL level, just putting it on is not going to be enough.
And that's something that I can see him growing through. And
again, I'm not trying to knock JT Compher too much. There's certainly a value to him. He's a good two-way player.
Definitely. I think he's got a season where he'll break out and have 20 goals and then regress back to 15.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible. That's possible. Right on. Excellent. Well, let's move into that prospect pool a little bit here. We thought it might be fun to. Or did we hit everything else that we wanted to talk about there?
Oh yeah, we've hit it all.
Excellent. We thought it would.
One other guy I think is going to bust for the Avs, and this is going to be painful. Matt Calvert.
Oh yeah.
I just don't think he's worth the money we paid to get him.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not worth the money we paid to get him. But I mean, he's not a guy you're expecting to go out and get a decent amount of points. But and unfortunately, the way people basically measure contract worth now is through points. But you hope he kind of fills Como's old role on that penalty kill, and just is a guy that goes out there and works hard for you. And that's kind of the book on him too. Is he's a decent penalty killer who works his ass off when he's on the ice. He's not going to get you a lot of points, but he works.
I just don't know that he's, in all manner of the word, I just think he is kind of bust.
Yeah. Right on. So we thought it would be fun also to, since we've been talking about this prospect pool, which is suddenly a lot more plentiful, to kind of dive in here and see about what our top 10 Avalanche prospects are. And this is not easy to do. Because there's suddenly now a whole bunch of guys in there that have all kinds of possibilities, that are young and have loads of potential, but maybe are not that close to making the NHL team, but their skill set is super high, and guys who are maybe a little bit older and you would have wanted them to move a little bit more beforehand, but they're still young, and they're getting their feet wet in the pros, so they're closer to the NHL. It's hard to figure out these things. So we both put together 10. I have a feeling we probably have a decent amount of the same guys. I'm interested to see what the numbers are here for you. Now, how do you want to do this? I have a feeling our number one is probably the same. So should we just get that out of the way nice and quick?
Yes. Start with number one.
Number one. My number one gentleman is Cale Makar.
100%.
Pretty simple. Highest ceiling, probably some of the best raw skill.
We can't put Jack Hughes in here yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Nope, can't put any of the Jack Hughes or any of the other possible high-level guys coming up this year in there yet. Still got one. Basically, all expectations is that he'll have this last year at UMass Amherst, and then will make the jump to the pros, whether that be with the Avalanche in the NHL or to the Eagles in the AHL. That, of course, remains to be seen. But the big thing you want to see out of him this year is to go out and just crush his competition this year.
That would be nice. And I think we're going to see a lot of him.
I hope so.
So number two.
Oh, we're going top down? I don't know if you wanted to go to the bottom now after that one, just to get it.
Feel okay. Bottom.
Yeah.
Who's your number 10?
Do you have any honorable mentions? You were like, I want to put this guy on, but I just can't.
Well, I had a guy who was 10, and I just bumped him down. J.C. Bodin.
He is one of my honorable mentions.
Guy I just want to see more of, Justice Anunin.
Dude, get out of my friggin' brain. Stop that. He is also my other honorable mention is Justus Anunin.
Nikolai Kovalenko is an honorable mention. Again, these guys are just so recently drafted, it's hard to rank them. I have 2 recent draft picks that I put in here because I've seen enough of them that I feel confident. I feel comfortable putting them in.
Sounds good. Now, I should point out that we have not shared our lists with each other prior to this. And it sounds like, Aaron sent me kind of a list before. It was kind of stream of conscious, but it sounds like he's made some changes to it. And I have not sent mine to him. So
So we're all in for surprise.
This will be interesting to see where they go. So number 10, who do you have for your number 10?
Ty Lewis.
Ty Lewis. Excellent. My number 10, I have Nick Henry.
Nick Henry. Ooh, that's kind of bold. I just don't know if he's got NHL upside in him. He's got glimpses. He's got a good shot, but with the depth that they suddenly have, he's buried a little bit.
Here's the thing that he is that the Avalanche don't have. He's a right wing.
See, and I've got 2 right wings on my list here for that exact reason.
Almost every other guy of the forwards are either a center or a left wing ahead there. So that, I mean, and I agree. Henry has the shot. Henry has a great shot, a great shot. And he had kind of a tough year last year with injury, and didn't really get going again until the postseason in Memorial Cup. And then he nearly single-handedly won the Memorial Cup for Regina.
I'm just not ready to put him in a top 10.
I'm doing it. He's there.
Going with number 9.
Number 9. Who's your number 9?
Shvirev. Igor Shvirev.
Cool.
He wasn't on this list, but I bumped him up to 9 just hearing the way you and remembering that podcast, how they were talking about him.
Yeah. There's a lot of potential with that guy. He's on my list. I have him a little higher. My number 9 is Ty Lewis.
So we're about in agreement. Ty Lewis he's going to be a spark plug. I can't wait to see him in camp.
Yeah, I mean, and again, from all accounts of people who have gotten the opportunity to talk to him, his attitude is super infectious. Like the kid just has he has the drive. He's just like, I'm going to be an NHL player, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get there. AHL and all of it.
Lindsay of the hockey world.
Like he knows exactly what he wants, and he knows what he's going to have to do to go get it. And doesn't
do this podcast without dropping a Philip Lindsay.
What's that?
Said I just couldn't get through this podcast without dropping Philip Lindsay into the conversation.
well, you got to just do what you got to do.
Yeah, do what you know.
That's right. And the guy had a heck of a year in the WHL last year. 100 points, 44 goals. Guy, he's got some skill to him. It'll be interesting to watch him transition this year. And you got to hope that with the Eagles there that he's going to get again, and he's going to be up there in the top 6. And watch and see what he does with it.
Yep.
Number 8. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to go number 8. Sempo Ranta.
That's a bold one to me.
Oh, I love this guy. He's got all energy. He's got a great shot. He's going to be in a good college program. He's just got all that measurables. He's a right wing, which bumps him up on my list. And I feel like there are good things coming from him.
Now, the big knock I am reading and hearing on him is that he's not very creative, and that he kind of just plays the game in a straight line and needs to figure out how to do more than just skate down the wing, get a shot, and score.
I feel like he's going to emerge as a net presence.
He's a big guy. Yes. He's
very
got
kind of sandpaper-esque thing.
Great size, absolutely. That'd be great for him.
Just use it to drive to the net, kind of like Dustin Brown did when he emerged in the league. That's actually my comparable for him, is Dustin Brown.
Hopefully not the same type of fall off that Dustin Brown had.
Well, that would. Hopefully we don't pay him the same kind of money that they did Dustin Brown.
Fair enough. It'll be college. I think. Do you think college is the right place for him? I mean, Minnesota. Yes. Minnesota is a very good program.
He's not ready for the AHL. He's too good for where. I like getting him overseas so he can actually play in the North America.
Yeah.
Minnesota would be nice because
he played in the USHL, so he did play he did play in North America, so he was in the U.S. because he was with I forget the city, but he was a USHL kid, the Musketeers.
That's right. My bad.
I mean, I just wonder if a league that harbors a bit more, that nurtures a bit more of the offensive creativity would help develop that part of the game better than the NCAA, which is a bit more grindy of a bit more grindy hockey. Would you agree with that?
But I think he's going to get a little more hands-on instruction that's going to allow his other parts of his game to grow.
Yeah, I possibly, but then also, I mean, the other thing to look at is that he's also going to play about half as much time,
which gives him more time to really concentrate and really develop those skills.
I don't know. You get a whole lot
to be on the.
You get a whole lot of time to practice, sure, but then you're playing 2 games a week.
But it works.
I feel like
so
for what?
A bunch of the college kids work really well like that. You get 4 years. I would take him the 3 or 4 years before you ever sign him.
Sure.
That gives, you don't feel the need or the impetuous to move him along. They've developed more to their own speed. So who's your number 8?
My number 8 is AJ Greer.
Wow, he's that low?
That low, yeah. It is. I even note, here's what I wrote about it. It's a bit low for a guy who already has a few games of NHL experience, but he also hasn't really managed to find the role that works for him and stick with the team. And if there's a year for that to happen for him, it's got to be this year. I feel like this is kind of his make or break year for AJ Greer. A lot of rhyming there, not intentional, but there it is. Greer should be able to come in and be better than a guy like Wilson and be better than a guy like Calvert. But I don't know that the team is convinced that he can do that yet. And I know we've also talked about him on previous podcasts about not being able to always control his emotions, and that so many 1,000 of us have always said about AJ Greer, the guy goes 1,000,000% every time he's on the ice, start to finish, and even after. And he hasn't found the way to kind of like put a leash on it a little bit. I think we've even used that exact word, that exact phrasing before, to just put a leash on things a little bit. And, you know, it's one thing to be an agitator, but it's another thing to go out there and then constantly be in the penalty box. And he hasn't figured that out yet. And he's got to do it this year, because otherwise other guys are going to pass him up.
And I have no problem with that. I have him hired the only reason I have him hired is because he doesn't have as many roadblocks in front of him to becoming established.
Yeah.
I kind of ranked my players as how soon they're going to arrive.
Yeah.
Or how soon they're going to arrive / upside that they have.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm with you on that, but I feel like Greer's upside has gone down significantly.
I will buy that as well. Number 7.
Number 7, this is where I placed Igor Shvirev.
Huh. Number 7, I have Martin Kaut.
That low.
There's a lot of... Just because it'll take him a little bit of time to get fully immersed into the North American game. And the people above him, I feel like, are closer to landing on an NHL roster. And he could surprise. 3 through 7, all kind of gravitate in different ways that I think they'll arrive at the NHL.
Yeah.
In timetables.
I mean, for me, it was like
is going to be an NHL player. I just
absolutely.
don't know how good of a one.
I
don't know what his upside is.
I kind of see Kaut as eventually being a winger.
He already is a winger.
Well, I had thought that. However, again, there's so many of the sites have him listed as a center, which is kind of weird. But yeah, I see him pretty much being a second line right wing, which is, I think, money. It's a good spot, and
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Yeah, second line right wing is about his ceiling, and his floor is about a third line right wing. So he's about as safe a pick as you can get.
Yeah.
I just, the other guys above him either are closer to an NHL roster, or they have more upside.
Yeah. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's that far away. Again, he signed his ELC. He'll be in Loveland this year. He was this last year's first-round pick. We were talking earlier. I would say there's a pretty decent likelihood he gets a look in the NHL this year.
Mm-hmm. It's just you'll see the people that are above him.
Fair enough. All right, number 6.
AJ Greer. This is where I land him.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
And this is, I put him right on the fulcrum between the top half and the bottom half. He has every chance to push Colin Wilson out of the lineup. I feel like they're wanting and almost expecting that to happen.
Yeah.
So that's really what I feel like. If he's going to make his mark, it's going to be this year.
Nice.
If he doesn't make his mark this year, it's not going to happen. That's how I feel.
Fair enough. For me, I have my number 6 is Shane Bowers.
Wow, that low?
It's a proximity thing, I think, with him, as because he's playing another full year in college this year. Will likely go pro afterwards, but again has guys. As a center, he's got guys ahead of him that the Avalanche once again kind of have that log jam at centers going here, and a lot will be this. He could shoot up real quick depending on how well or not well one Tyson Jost plays,
or Kerfoot.
I mean, Kerfoot. He was. I'm not a huge fan of Kerfoot at center because the guy cannot win a faceoff.
But I feel like they're going to try that again.
Yeah, it's possible.
And that's going to be one of the things they try.
Yeah. And, I mean, maybe he gets better at faceoffs, and then maybe center is better for him because he's a little bit small to make a life on the boards as a winger. But, yeah, for me, Bowers, right now, today, and again, like I said, this could change drastically in March, depending on him. He's got some time in before it's going to be the Shane Bowers show. It might not be a lot of time, but there's some guys I think that are going to be in front of him.
Okay, number 5.
Number 5, one of those guys that is probably going to be in front of him is Vladislav Kamenev.
I agree. We'll get to him shortly on my list here. Also with Kamenev, kind of like Greer, this is his perfect opportunity.
Yeah. Yep.
And he shows off amazingly at the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
I just would like to see that translate to the NHL.
Yeah, he had a rough deal of cards last year when he got to the Avs. He was traded. He played a few games for the Rampage. Was awesome. Got called up, and then got his arm broken on the first shift.
Right.
And then he was back and he was healthy. And by all accounts, the Avs wanted to get him in the lineup, but they were in the middle of the playoff run, and they couldn't justify putting him in.
Right.
And
you have, at that point in the season, you play with the cards you have.
Yeah. If the Avs were 10 points out of it at that point, then you would have seen him. But at the way it was, they couldn't mess with the lineup like that.
Yeah. Number 5 for me is Nicholas Milosh. He ranks 3rd for the defenseman in the Avs pipeline. He's not quite as polished as the Timmins or Makar.
Yeah.
But he improved a significant amount over last year. So.
Very good. Very good. Number 4.
This is where I have Kamenev.
Oh, perfect. So we flip-flopped there. You have Kamenev at 4. I have Milosh at 4.
Yep. I also feel like Kamenev could have a chance at developing into a top 6 role.
Yeah.
If he can show that he's scoring, his size on the second line could be really nice.
If they don't marry themselves to Kamenev at center, he could be also a very strong right wing potential because he shoots left, shoots very well, and could be another Rantanen type, that offside shot to create some offensive possibilities on the right wing.
I feel like his future is as winger, left or right.
Yeah, and he's got good size for it too.
He's built to be a winger.
Yeah. I think Milosh also probably is a guy that we can expect to see make his Avs debut at some point this year, given some injuries / how well he plays. He should be primed to be a big part of the Eagles team this year.
He should be getting top pairing minutes.
Big guy. I mean,
skates really well.
Skates well. Has a
plays all minutes.
Huge shot, and he's mean.
I wouldn't actually. I could see the Avs moving out some of their defenders, like Barry or Nemeth, to give guys like Milosh and Timmins a chance.
Yeah.
Or at least they've called them up. They've showed well enough that they're saying, well, we're going to ride with the kids.
Yep. He's a guy that I would hope would be the first call up over a guy like...
going to be Markall, and we know it.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But I mean, again, it depends on the type of call up that is. We've talked about it a lot, and a lot of people talk about it. Where if it's a guy that you're calling up for the purpose of sitting him in the press box, then fine, call up Markall. But if it's a guy you're calling up because you need to get someone to put in regular minutes on your team, even if it's like 15 minutes a night, then it'd be better to give a guy like Milosh that as opposed to Alt.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Number 3?
Number 3. This is where I have Martin Kaut.
Ah. I have no problem with that. Anywhere from 3 to 7, I can put Kaut.
Yep. Just, I mean, everybody that is covering the team absolutely raves about Kaut.
Right.
Just flat out raves. So I
just have to see him before I can put him any higher than 7.
For sure. And I also put a lot of weight on the fact that he was this last year's first round pick.
That is grading on a curve there.
Yeah, which if you're first round pick, you're expected to be a part of the pro team in the not too distant future. So
yeah. Number 2?
Number 2, I think again we have the same gentleman here. You should do your number 3. Yeah, go ahead.
This is where I have Connor Timmins.
You have Interesting. Look at you, rocking the boat. Cool. How do you have? What makes you put Timmins at number 3?
Because I've seen a lot of the guy in his off season and the work he's putting in to put him at number 2.
Fair enough.
Timmins, I feel like he almost made the club last year.
Yep.
Made them really think about it.
A lot of guys wanted him, yeah.
So I feel like he's got a really nice upside. He's got a good size. The only thing that scares me a little bit is his concussion.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's just an aberration.
Yep.
Then number two.
Number 2.
Is that where you put Timmins?
That is where I put Connor Timmins.
See, here's where I put Shane Bowers. He's been working out with McKinnon and Crosby, and he's flashing a lot with his hands. He's got a good size, good head up, good compete. Everything I see about him says that he's a middle 6 center that should probably be a top 6 center, but because of the depth on the Avs, he might be a scoring third-line center, which would be insane. He's going to sign after this year, and I don't know how long you keep him in the AHL. Maybe you don't keep him in the AHL at all.
Yeah, that will likely depend a lot on where the Avalanche are at the time and what
everything about him reminds me of Paul Stastny, just with a better shot.
So he's going to break our hearts in 10 years.
Hey, Stastny did a lot of good things in his 10 years here, though.
Oh yeah, no,
there was no one else who was as crafty with the puck on his stick, just looking for the pass as Stastny, this side of Alex Tanguay. So, and then of course we have Makar, who is
the cream of the crop.
Revolutionized the Avs defense.
Yep.
The speed, the stick handling, the shot, he does it all.
He does. And again, he's a lot of people who one of the big things that people initially thought about him when he was drafted is, oh, great, another small guy. But then again, you hear guys talk about him that the size thing is very he's not small.
He's not tall.
He's 6 foot, isn't he? He's basically 6 foot.
Built.
He's got a good frame, too, and he is able to play a physical game. Not the type of physical game that Zad plays where he's going to, you look at him the wrong way and he's going to send you into the upper stratosphere looking at you, Eric Stahl. But he's not afraid to put a body on you in the corner.
Yeah, Makar reminds me a lot of Duncan Keith. Keith will not play a physical game, but he's not going to be body. You're not going to move him off the puck. He's going to use his frame, his skating ability to get him everywhere he needs to be.
Yeah, exactly. And his feet are so good that just all he needs is a couple steps, and you're behind him going, where to go, George.
Mm-hmm. I look forward to when Makar, Timmins, and Girard are all up with the program.
Yeah, and I mean, this is going to be an interesting year with some of these guys. That I think I'm hoping that the Avalanche will have the faith in these guys that when given the choice to stick with Patrick Nemeth or go with a guy like Timmins or Milosh, or when Makar is available at the time, that they're able to that especially if they haven't been spectacular, and you look at a guy like Patrick Nemeth, he's not going to be spectacular. At most, he's going to be at very best, he's going to be.
Patrick Nemeth signed a 1-year contract in the UFA after this year.
Yeah, he won't be back for sure. But then the same with like guys like Barbario, and even when it's time to let Ian Cole now slip down the depth chart, to let it happen.
Or a bigger name.
Yeah.
Eric Johnson.
Yeah, exactly.
Eric Johnson is 30.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been playing NHL hockey for the better part of 11 years.
Yep.
And that's...
Father Time is undefeated, as they say.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like the next couple of years they need to move him into a middle pairing role. where he's going to really emerge. He's still going to be a team leader. He's not going to control the kind of minutes. Zadorov is your top pair defenseman, and you probably pair him with Makar. That's my vision. That's what I think happens.
Yeah.
So then you have Gerard playing with Johnson, and then you have Makar, Timmins. Or you have Timmins, maybe Milosh.
Yeah.
Or
see, and then again, Milosh is a guy that could also potentially grow into one of those type of top 4 roles where he's playing meaningful defensive minutes. And
they officially have defensive prospects, and they have a defensive depth building up.
Yeah.
And they have a prospect base that if one of them isn't developing the way they need, or they need a shot in the arm for a serious playoff run, that you've got it.
Yep.
You can make the trade. You can make the move.
Yeah. It's going to be... The Avalanche are very rapidly approaching that moment where it's almost time to really allow the kids to have the keys to the car. And they did very well with that for the most part last season by with the roles that they gave to Jost and Comfer and Kerfoot.
And as long as you insulate them with depth and have they made a decision to have their veteran leadership be the 23-year-old McKinnon, 25-year-old Landeskog, the now 30-year-old Johnson. He's the oldest one of the bunch.
Yep. Which, frankly, they should have done 3 years ago, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway.
Well, it's a sign that they realized we don't have to go get a veteran. We can. Our core is matured enough.
Exactly.
That they can be that.
We don't need a veteran leader to bring into the steady locker room. We have our leadership in our room.
What I'm going to be watching this entire year is Tyson Barrie.
Yeah.
Because one, they have such a redundancy there with the players. Like Makar, Timmins, Gerard, there is a bit of a redundancy there.
Indeed there is.
He's just become a little bit expendable. But he is so well liked in that locker room.
Yeah. Yeah, that is going to be a very interesting point of contention to observe. Because at some point, I mean, he's right about at the peak of his game. And of course, I know there's all kinds of folks that love to just remind how Tyson Barrie they go a little crazy with the whole Tyson Barrie can't play defense kind of thing. And I don't think anybody who watches Tyson Barrie would argue that defense is the strongest portion of his game. But to sit there and to talk about him like he is completely and totally incapable of playing defense is just wrong. Is he the strongest defensive guy out there? Obviously not. He's limited defensively, but he gives you damn close to 60 points. You can guarantee pretty much settle him down for, at very least, 48 points a year from the blue line. And
he's a 50-point defenseman routinely.
Yeah.
That's pretty valuable, especially if you put him to a team that wants to play him in a middle pairing role. Mm-hmm. It's going to be so good. Wow. Sorry, the rain just kicked up at our house.
Woo.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, that is not something that you just wave your hands and magically replace. Something has to replace 60 some odd points of your offensive production, and a hefty part of that comes from your top power play. It comes from top power play time. He's not a piece that you're just like, oh, we'll just toss him around and I won't notice it. This is not Greg Zanin. This is not Francois Beauchemin. This is not addition by subtraction. If you're moving Tyson Barrie, you better be damn sure. At the same time, though, he has 2 years left on his contract, including this season. You also don't want to be the one paying him. after this contract.
And the whole idea there is you use Tyson Berry to replace something that you don't have already.
Yes.
Holy crap. It sounds like we're outside in a rainstorm right now.
Oh, wow. You guys are getting clobbered, eh?
Oh, out of nowhere. Okay.
Those are always fun.
It's just nice to see the Avs actually have a prospect base that is they've got some holes that hopefully the prospects will fill. And we're not even talking about their two first picks that they're going to make next year. There's a lot. This is the new renaissance of the Avalanche. It's officially here. And it's not because of one high pick, it's because of all of everything that they're doing.
Yep.
Well, I think that about calls it.
Yeah, that does about do it. So, right on, guys and gals. We didn't end up with any voicemails today, and it looks like everybody has basically been watching the Broncos preseason game. Hopefully, it's been going better than the last one.
Well, it is better, but they did lose.
Well,
they took out the second team, and the third team offense sputtered.
Well, then it doesn't matter. So.
But when the third team's playing, no one really gives a shit.
Yeah, pretty much. Preseason is so painful to watch.
Uh-huh.
That's why I don't watch it.
I watched the first half because that's about everything that's fantasy relevant.
Yeah,
anything after that, you're just like, why am I bothered?
Sounds good. Right on. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. We got ourselves a podcast here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for sticking with us. We went longer than I was expecting, that's for sure. Those August ones, you don't expect to have a lot to talk about, but we managed to talk about a decent chunk here today. So
this was for you. We want to keep you entertained.
Absolutely. So next time we'll likely have had some sort of camp things to discuss. And hopefully we'll have some interesting things to talk about there. Hopefully nothing that will bring any of those, if in case something really bad happens, conversations into it. And yeah, so next time we talk to you, ladies and gentlemen, it'll be September sometime. We'll be within spitting distance of the regular season. So enjoy the rest of your summer. If you're back in school already, or you're in that time where you have your kids back in school, congratulations. I get back to school starting pretty soon here myself. We start later in Oregon. So, and thanks again for sticking with us. Follow us on Twitter. I am at BRG Brigade Kevin. He is at Avalangelist. You can find the podcast on Podbean. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. Don't forget to give us a call anytime you feel like it on the Burgundy Brigade hotline, which is 720-477-3762. Have a great rest of your night, day, evening, afternoon, whenever you happen to listen to this. And we will see you on the other side.